interesting question is, if you can hear me on Facebook and Instagram, could it be that God's calling us to use our voice to speak life over people that we might not even realize? I'm going to pull this out because otherwise I won't have good. Think about that. Could God be calling us to speak life over people and we're not even realizing that? Coming this Wednesday, I'm going to have a interview with someone that I met on Instagram. And it was, can I paint the picture? It was like this. It was one early morning, had a lot on my mind, but I got my coffee, spent some time in the Word, and then opened up Instagram, and boom, I was hit by this amazing testimony from this woman named Grace. What a wonderful name. And she took a brave step to share with me. And you know, you can get a lot of people sharing on DMs, but the way I look at it is the Spirit of God always bears witness, so it doesn't bother me. But the story she gave me, I'm a wordy person, and she gave me a wordy definition or description of a dream she had. And it was very interesting. She talked about my husband and I being in the dream, and my husband reaching out the car window and saying peace to her, without her knowing that that's one of my husband's main things. He'll grab a hold of someone and say shalom. It won't be a normal handshake. It'll be the shalom handshake. Do you know what I'm talking about? And he'll say, nothing missing, nothing broken. And I use this as an example. And by the way, we're going to have an interview this Wednesday. I'm so glad, because she talks about finding your voice, literally, our voice. And I talk about finding your voice, sharing your voice from an identity situation. But I say all this to say, instead of using social media as a spillover of our own life, how about we use social media as a spillover of what God's talking to us? And the reason I say this is because there's so much going on right now with COVID-19. It's not my lane to go about the conspiracies, and they're not conspiracies, but it's just not my lane. My lane is to say, hey, let us not lose our voice in the midst of the most unusual pandemic, China virus, unusual times that we live in. Let us not lose our voice to encourage, to speak life. You know, I had an attitude shift because I hate the mask. And God said, stop complaining. I said, yes, sir. And find a way to encourage someone with your mask on. Well, my voice is kind of soft, so I found this thing. I'll kind of take my mask off and I'll look at the clerk and I'll say, let me tell you something. I get all excited for him. Your mask cannot hide your smile. And they just light up. You can just see their eyes light up. So that's using your voice. What if we start using our voice online, on Instagram, on Facebook, and speak life over people? And don't be surprised as it comes from the overflow. It doesn't come from, I'm going to try to make up something to say. No, it comes from the overflow of what God is saying to you. So it's truly a touch of heaven coming out of your voice, and it's not a striving thing at all. It comes from your abiding. Now, you may not be comfortable with a microphone in your hand, so maybe you're going to write something. I just believe, let's rally together. Let's rally, rally, rally. You and I together. Let's make a concerted effort this week to use our very vocal cords, help me, Grace, to speak life over people. To say, hey, I believe in you. To say in whatever way God shows you, to speak life. You know, God shows me often in a vine dresser word. And I'm going to look for just like on the spot vine dresser word. Why? Because out of my relationship with God, out of my going through the traumas of the dramas, God seemed to always speak to me in the voice of the vine dresser. And I think he's saying, speak. I think he's saying, listen. I think he's saying, hey, listen, this is the beginning. Psalm 118 in the Message. Go to that and find that phrase where it says, God's hand has turned the tide. I think it's turned it, and he's just looking for us to surf with it, to believe it, to walk by faith, to rest in his miracle working power, and then walking that out. You think everything's la la la. In my own life, I'm going through some things that I never thought I would face. But is that going to stomp me down? No. I'm going to rise up in the authority of my faith, resting in the promises of God, and I'm going to say, hey, listen, you have a valuable voice. Yeah, you got a valuable voice. Speak it, share it. You know, it's amazing. So often I hear people say, I just would love to find friends. And I'm like, pray Psalm 15 in the Passion Translation. And then don't be surprised how God may answer your prayer. So I'm looking for just one. How about this? Declarations are so powerful. Declarations shift atmospheres. Declarations, when you tie them with the potency of heaven, listen to me, you tie your declarations to the power of the prophetic, you shift atmospheres. I really think the angels are like, come on, declare so we can move. Okay, so you ready for declaration? This is the declaration. The internal pressures will not take me out. I am going through the test to carry well my destiny. Come on, let me hear you say that. The eternal pressures will not take me out. I am growing through the test. I am growing through the test to carry well my destiny. Can I read something to you? I don't even know which one this is, but this was a word the Lord spoke to me, and when God speaks to me, it's like John 15. Jesus is the vine, I'm the branch, and the vine dresser that goes up and down the rows is the caretaker of my soul. He knows how to prune us, not for punishment, so we'll grow more fruit. He knows how to pick us up out of the dust, the dirt, and the rain has happened, and we're just all muddy, and he showers, cleanses us. If we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to cleanse us our sins. And then he sets us on the trellis facing his son. He sets us up high, transferring us from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light, so we face the sun, and we get to dry, and we get to bask, and we get to rejoice. That's your Father. The vine dresser has picked you up. Okay, here's a vine dresser word. Are you ready? We've already had that declaration. This is the vine dresser of your soul talking to you. You can draw from me purpose in the midst of the internal pressure. Let me modernize this. You can draw from me purpose in the midst of the internal pressure of the Chinese virus, of losing your job, of kids at home. Under the surface of your travail lies a spring that my spirit has deposited in you. Contend with your difficult circumstances by going often to the pool of refreshment. When the world, COVID-19, trials, violence, when the world invades your garden with the weeds of worry or foxes of fear, lift up your heart to me. I will get down on my knees, says your vine dresser. I will get down on my knees and help you pull the weeds. I will go to the well and pour the water out freely to keep your soul fresh. My word is the fertilizer that helped you grow. I am your sun. I am your shield. I infuse you with grace and glory. No good thing will I withhold as you walk uprightly. A day in my vineyard is better than the thousands in the cesspool of the systems of success based by the world. Blessed are you as you dwell in the vineyard. The gardener of your heart is my concern, says the vine dresser. The garden of your heart is my concern. What concerns you concerns him. It says that. Psalm 138, the Lord perfects that which concerns him. Live or recorded, I'm just doing my part. I'm doing what I'm preaching to you to do, telling you to do. I can preach, but this isn't a preaching moment. This is just being me, authentic, encouraging you. You have a voice. Find it, share it, market it. Find it in the identity of who you are. I had a blueprint call this morning, a one-on-one, which you can get a hold of. Go to redeemyourvoice.com and that will lead you there. And it was just like I was sharing my story of performance-based acceptance, my poverty mentality, and even as every time I share the story, I still get this wind of gratefulness. That's what I was. I'm continuing to walk away from the performance. I just want to be myself, but yet I want to use my voice. That was lined in my DNA since a little kid. My idea of fun was finding a microphone and talking into it. Go figure. My idea was getting on top of an Apple cart without a mic and preaching. Now I open up my Apple computer, I get on my Apple cart, and I just share my heart. So I go back to the idea of someone, you could be speaking to someone and they may come into your inbox, your DM, and they may just say thank you. They may become a connection. I love it. I think two of my best friends have come through my blueprint into my business, into a relationship that continues on Instagram. And you're like, oh, come on, get real. You can't have a relationship. Well, there's such a thing as FaceTime, audio. I'm talking Australia. There's such a thing as video in Instagram in the DM area. There's such a thing as texts and emails at just the right moment. So what I'm trying to say to you is, in this day we live, man, I love flesh and blood visits. I got one last week with 2 girlfriends, and it's like, coffee in person. But anyway, I really believe God's going to rally some leaders with you, friends, because we need each other, to pray for each other, to speak life, to be a godmother to, or raise up goddaughters, as Lisa Bevere is saying so beautifully in her book, Godmothers. This isn't a time to retreat. This is a time to speak. And even if we're speaking our lane, stay in your lane, and we're resting to run, we're resting in the authority of our faith based on the promises. We're actually resting in the authority of our faith that rests in the promises of God. We're not going to embrace the suck. We're going to embrace with our faith his miracle powers so that we can walk in the authority of our faith that's resting in his promises. And then we get to run, tap into his faithfulness. We get to run with declarations. I'm running with declarations for you, looking into this camera, whatever camera it is, and saying you're valuable, you're needed, God's got a plan, he's not forgotten you. Line up, speak up, say, God, I need friends. Go to Psalm 15 in the Passion Translation. God, I need finances. Go to Jehovah Jireh. God, I know you'll meet all my needs. I'm going to speak forth what the solutions of heaven are. And the solutions of heaven, I'm going to place them right in my face, right before you. Habakkuk, is it Habakkuk 2 where it says, write the vision down and they will run with it? Write the vision down, dream, and the angels will run with it. All right, getting a little carried away. I have a blueprint call coming up. I just wanted to come on because I was so fired up by grace. Check us out Wednesday on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Teresa M. Croft. I'm going to be interviewing Grace Morrison, who teaches you how to find your voice from your physical voice, vocal cords, singer, writer, speaker. I'm just kind of excited because, I get on these calls, and next thing I know, I'm hacking because I drank coffee. But anyway, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA, on Facebook Live. I'd love for something to hit you that sparks you on how to use your voice, whether it's from identity or really getting some vocal training. That's so cool. So, I'm excited about that. This Wednesday, 4 p.m. And just to know, it's a connection that came with Grace being brave to say, hey, you were in my dream. This is what's going on. Me responding back, it is finished, her coming back, saying some more. And then later she did a video on her Facebook page and explained the stories that God used. Sometimes, God doesn't want you to freak out in your dreams. So sometimes with his angels, he uses a familiar face. I mean, have you ever dreamed about someone maybe you don't know? And you're like, why is that person in my dream? Or you dream about people you do know? I believe as you ask God to download, he'll speak to you. So anyway, I was in her dream. Go figure. But then we now have connected, and I can't wait to introduce her to you Wednesday, 4 p.m. It'd just be like this. This is how it's going to be. Like we're having coffee together, and you guys come on and ease on in and see what we have to say. Anyway, so I really appreciate you. You know it. And speak. The world is listening online. No strive, simply abide. If you'd like to connect and speak with a blueprint call, go to redeemyourvoice.com and that'll lead you to that page. redeemyourvoice.com/blueprint now if you want to get directly there. And when it's all said and done, I just want to say something. I really appreciate you. I sent a SOS out to my list. I emailed them and I said, will you just pray for me? I didn't give them any details except I was in the midst of the storm and the lighthouse, Jesus is still strong, but will you pray for me? And I got to tell you, I was so blessed at the responses back. I mean, never in my mind did I expect that response. So thank you for praying. If you're on my list, you know what I'm talking about. So, you know it. I really do love you, and I'll talk to you in the next video.